Yes.
Oh, it takes trouble. No trouble. Move a little bit.
He attracts trouble.
Welcome to Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, May the 20th, 2025. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Justin to lead us in the pledge. Please stand. Thank you. Our first item tonight is our second public hearing for the FY26 budget. So Melissa.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, everyone. As mentioned, this is our second public hearing for fiscal year 2026, which will begin July 1st, 2025 through June the 30th of 2026. Try to get the slide to advance for you here. So the next slide is an illustration of the county's mission. The mission of Oconee County Board of Commissioners to provide the highest quality services in a fiscally responsible manner, promoting health, safety, and general welfare of Oconee County citizens. So the budget that's being presented this evening is designed with this mission in mind, as well as the strategic goals of the county. We will start by looking at the general fund budget, which is the operating fund for Oconee County. The proposed fiscal year 2026 general fund budget is $45,704,250. So we have here a comparison of that proposal to the FY25, which is our current fiscal year's budget, showing an increase of $4.9 million and just over 12%. So we'll take a look at the revenues and expenditures that make up this increase in the next few slides. The chart on the left shows the percentage of each of our revenue sources as it relates to the proposed general fund budget, and the chart on the right shows you a comparison between current year amended budget and the proposal. Our property taxes make up 43.5% of our proposed budget in fiscal year 26. You can see on the table that that is a slight increase to 19.7 million. This is about a 1.24% increase. Typically, we would see that number increase more, but we are accounting for homestead exemption changes in House Bill 581 for Oconee County and basing that off of our estimated digest for the year. Local option sales tax make up 26.4% of the proposed budget. We're anticipating the current year to end around 11.3 million. So $12 million is an increase of approximately 6%, which is what we've seen on average increase the last 2 to 3 years. Charges for services are 12% of the proposed budget. Charges for services now includes our school resource officer program, which was implemented in February of this year. So our FY25 comparison number includes a 6-month budget for that program, and the FY26 proposed budget includes a full year of that program. And this is on the revenue side, so the Board of Education provides us with a 90% reimbursement, and that budgeted reimbursement is $2.2 million, and that charges for services revenue source. And we have other taxes at 10.3%, which is largely made up of our insurance premium taxes with a budget of $3.3 million. All the other sources that are listed here make up less than 10% by category and don't have any significant changes up for discussion. So the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that brings our proposed revenues to $45.3 million. And this is a listing of our general fund expenditures with a proposed total of $45.7 million. Revenues are less than expenditures are budgeted, which means we're balancing the general fund with fund balance. That's a fund balance usage of $310,000, and that's using reserved fund balance from current and previous years. towards the purchase of law enforcement officer body cameras. All right, law enforcement, jail, and E911 make up 33.9% of the recommended expenditures in fiscal year 26. So you can see that's an increase from 13.8 million to 15.5 million. And that increase is largely related to the school resource officer program. This is going to be the expenditure portion of that agreement, and our budgeted expenditures are 2.5 million. Administration and operations makes up 17.3% of the recommended budget. You can see there's an increase of approximately 500,000 in this category. If you look down to economic development, you'll see a savings, and that's our debt services going from 3 million to 2.6 million. Our Series 2016 bond for Parkway Boulevard was paid in full in fiscal year 2025. So we no longer have that debt service moving forward. So what we've done is moved that $500,000 in savings up to administration and operations. And we are showing that as an expense because we're transferring that out of the general fund and into our capital project reserve fund. Parks and Recreation is at 9.8% of proposed expenditures, and Public Works is at 9.4%. Of mention in Public Works, it shows decreasing about 1.5 million, and that is related to projects that are budgeted in the current fiscal year that will be completed and are not moving forward into the FY26 proposed budget. And again, here, all the other categories independently make up less than 10% of the proposed budget, and there aren't any other significant changes that really warrant an explanation here. So this is illustrated by function or department. We can also take that total budget and illustrate it to you by what those departments will be spending on. So we've presented that here. It's by classification. Personnel and benefits at 25.6 million. Makes up 56% of the general fund proposed budget, and that's an increase of 1.7 million over prior year. What's included in that increase is a step increase for every employee, countywide, not just general fund, that meets the qualifications for that increase, as well as some new positions and some removed positions. In animal services, we're requesting to add 2 part-time personnel. And that is actually a shift out of operations and maintenance and into personnel. So really it's kind of just moving between classifications. Requesting 2 part-time positions added to the Civic Center. Previously removed, we would like to add those back. And we're recommending to remove 1 full-time position at the Civic Center for custodial services. Adding 1 full-time planning manager with removing 1 full-time code enforcement officer, and also removing the assistant director position in the Water Resources Fund. And we have 1 position that's being transferred as an accountant position out of Water Resources Fund over to the general fund to be placed into finance. Operations and maintenance makes up 26% of the general fund budget. The decrease that you see here is related to those projects mentioned that are in fiscal year 25, not carrying forward into the next year. But I do have a list of some operations and maintenance type items that have been placed into the FY26 budget to cover for you. And this is listed by department. So for law enforcement, jail, and E911, I mentioned that we were using fund balance to purchase body cameras in fiscal year 26. We've included additional small equipment that includes crime scene cameras and facial recognition software. Continuing the life cycle management program for other equipment, including armor, tasers, rifles, pistols, medkits, car cameras, and radars, and increasing the dollar amount for those purchases. We're continuing our annual contribution into reserves towards equipment purchases, such as the body camera purchases or mobile data terminals. Increasing repairs and maintenance in the jail for some specific requests, and increasing the jail's food budget, which those increases are offset with jail revenues coming in from outside of the county prisoners. We have the life cycle management scheduled for the jail in FY26, And we've included the school resource officers. So to recap, that program is a budget of 2.5 million with a 90% cost share from the school system of 2.2 million. And that funds 16 school resource officers and small equipment needed for their department and capital items, which we'll talk about as well. In administration and operations, we are requesting to upgrade our IT third-party contract to a Tier 3 level, which provides increased security for the county's data. Continuing our lifecycle management replacement process for computers, laptops, and UPSs. And continuing our GIS flyover. In Public Works, for planning for a local maintenance improvement grant and thus paving in the amount of $750,000. At the parks, Veterans Park, recommending a quad scoreboard replacement and gym scoreboard replacements at Herman C. Michael. And our annual AED life cycle management and public safety. Recommending one additional ADA position for the district attorney's office. That would be a position that is hired through Athens-Clarke County but reimbursed by Oconee County. And with the tax commissioner, recommending a software conversion that will assist them with their HB 581 compatibility for the House bill exemptions, as well as continuing that self-service kiosk that we started in FY25. We have capital outlay expenditures planned, $872,500. So we'll look at those in more detail. Allocations to other agencies include allocations to the health department and the library and other entities. And debt service includes our Caterpillar and our Costco bond payments. And support to other funds goes to like our capital project reserve fund and support of E911 sanitation and our civic center. The capital items budgeted in the general fund are listed here. So we have an IT network lifecycle management program. We have building improvements for law enforcement, jail, and E911, which is flooring replacements throughout their complex. We've included one general fund funded law enforcement equipped vehicle and school resource office vehicles at $300,000. Public Works infrastructure is a balance that's available if needed for the Mars Hill Phase 2 completion. Our fleet maintenance lifecycle management at $210,000, and parks facility equipment includes groundskeeping equipment as well as Veterans Park quad netting. So next we'll take a look at the total proposed budget, which does include the general fund, so everything we just covered, and in addition includes capital funds such as SPLOST and T-SPLOST, special revenues, and enterprise funds. And the total recommended proposed budget is $83,700,551. And again, the comparison here shows that that's an increase of $7 million compared to FY25's original budget. $4 million of this increase is attributable to the general fund, $1.4 million to our capital SPLOST and T-SPLOST funds, and $1 million as attributable to our water resources fund. So we have our total budget proposed revenues, of which 23.9% is made up of property taxes, 19.5% water and sewer. We have local option sales tax, transportation special local option sales tax, and special purpose local option sales tax, which is our LOST, T-SPLOST, and SPLOST. Combined are 36.4% of sales tax that make up our total budget. And then all the other categories individually are less than 10%. So you can see at the bottom right, 82.577 is our proposed revenue. And we have 83.7 as proposed expenses. That's the general fund balance usage. Also using fund balance from special revenues, it's $89,000. From our capital fund for $356,000. We'll look at that specifically, as well as looking at our water resources fund, which is using about $366,000. So law enforcement, jail, and E911 does include everything we talked about with the general fund. In addition, does include splost vehicles and the E911 budget at 2.7 million. We'll look specifically at water resources in a moment. That's 19.7% of total expenses. Public Works in this chart does include our T-Splost budget at 10.8 million. And administration and operations at 15.1% does include the SPLOST and T-Splost distributions to the municipalities, as well as our administrative building debt service of 1 million funded through SPLOST. And the public safety line item includes SPLOST funded items as well that we'll look at, vehicles, equipment, and station upgrades. Economic Development, Civic Center, and Tourism does include our hotel sales tax fund and our Civic Center budget. And the Civic Center being an enterprise fund, as well as sanitation being an enterprise fund listed here. So capital fund funded expenditures, we're reserving $70,000 for county facilities. Here's where the illustrated debt service savings is. It won't be for debt service anymore, but we're moving it here as a reserve for future capital projects. And we're funding the jail equipment and public safety equipment lifecycle management program. The last two items you see here are what make up the fund balance usage for this fund. These are reserved already, so we're using assigned fund balance for the Viper communications upgrade and for 6 desk station workstations at our communications office. From SPLOST, the first two items listed here are debt services. We're budgeting $2 million for paving, $500,000 for equipped law enforcement vehicles, $912,000 for fire rescue, includes 3 tanker trucks, Lucas device, and paving at Station 1. And our T-Splost budget at the 10.8 million includes 6 million in paving and 3 million in paving related services. And Water Resources Fund proposed budget is 16.4 million, an increase of 1 million over fiscal year 25's original budget. So here you can see the revenue sources on the left and the expenses by classification on the right. In revenues, we are budgeting for an increase in sewer sales of 430,000, with capacity fees of 600,000, and water sales budgeted to increase by 800,000, with availability fees budgeted at 600,000. It's a total budget of 16.1. And for expenses, personnel is affected by the same personnel costs already discussed. Operations and maintenance does show a decrease. Again, we have utility moves that are occurring in current fiscal year that we don't have budgeted in the proposed FY26. Capital outlays, we will look at specifically on another slide. I've mentioned debt service. We are beginning our GFA principal payments anticipated in January of 2026. So the 6 months is budgeted at 600,000. And also including is the 2024 debt, Oconee County's portion for Upper Oconee Basin Water Authority, budgeted at 868,000, along with other debt service payments that already existed prior to this year, for a total budget of 16.4. Again, that's balanced with fund balance usage. Those capital outlays are not out of current revenues, but are out of fund balance from previous renewal and extension fund reserves and capacity fee reserves. So I'd like to take a moment to illustrate to you our strategic goals being accomplished within the budget. Those goals are smart government, growth, infrastructure, and quality of life. So Oconee County's commitment to public safety within the budget shows 46% of our general fund is committed to public safety. And that's including law enforcement, jail, E911, courts, fire, EMS and EMA, and animal services. It's a total budget of $21 million. So the chart here demonstrates the operational and capital components of each of these budgeted line items. For law enforcement, those capital items included the general fund vehicle, the school resource officer vehicles, and SPLOST vehicles for a total of $877,000. The fire capital items included the 3 tanker trucks, Lucas Device, and paving, funded at $912,000. And then E911 includes the funding of their building improvements, consoles, and Viper communication system upgrade at approximately $400,000. In transportation maintenance, we have a total budgeted of paving in FY '26 of $8,750,000. So the chart on your right shows the various funding sources of that paving and illustrates that paving is more than 58% of the total public works budget. Water and sewer infrastructure projects that make up the capital budget are listed here. These are all engineering funds, so they're designed to kind of get the project started so that we can bring a construction plan back to you, request your approval and budget amendments at that time for those projects. Calls Creek Affluent Force Main will be funded through our GFA funding, and the other items listed are funded from our renewal and extension reserved fund balance. And lastly, our fleet phase replacement program illustrates here our commitment to keeping a strong fleet pool. So you can see here that in law enforcement, again, we have the school resource officer vehicles, 90% funded by the school system, 1 additional general fund vehicle in fiscal year '26, and SPOSS funding of $500,000. The 3 tanker trucks and fire all funded from SPOSS. And in the fleet, the general fund is funding an F-750 dump truck for the road department and has additional funds remaining for emerging needs throughout the year. So that concludes the details of the presentation. The next item to complete is the June 3rd budget adoption that is scheduled. There have not been any changes to this presentation since the first public hearing, but I do have one change to note in the fee schedule. So I'll just summarize the fee schedule changes for you. Within sanitation, we're moving from 3 various bag sizes to just 1 bag, which is equivalent to our current medium sized bag. Adding details for bulky item disposals, but no changes to fees, and increasing the oversized tire fee by $10. In the Civic Center, we've restructured and consolidated some fees, updated block hour rentals, included a 10% discount for nonprofit agencies, and an upcharge for out-of-county renters at 25%. And the change from last presented is adding an additional block of time for one of the rental items on the fee schedule. Provides more options. Animal Service is adding a fee for surrender and private cremation of $100, increasing distemper vaccination by $5. The Parks is changing their fees for some of the OVP space rentals, and the increases range from $5 to $10. Consolidating the Veterans Park and Herman C. Michael Gym rentals into one rate, increasing a supervision rate by $5 per supervisor, and increasing their program fees by 10%. And in water resources, we have water rate increases of 3.5%, sewer rate increases of 5.25%, and we have listed out the commercial deposits and their associated fees. So this presentation, the updated fee schedule, and the 1-page budget summary is available on the website, and also posted on the bulletin board outside of this building, as well as at both of the libraries. And yes, it's the only change is the one on the fee schedule. So if I can answer any questions, happy to do so.
Any questions from commissioners?
If you've got it, if not, I can get with you later.
Mhm.
What is the specific or ballpark debt service for the Caterpillar?
The remaining balance on the Caterpillar.
Well, how much we pay per year?
So it does fluctuate. Let me see if I have it in my notes.
I think we've got a number of years left on that one. I just can't remember what the ballpark number was.
Yeah. Don't know that I have the details on it. I can
can just
definitely
type
get the
it up
details
back
on
in.
it, no problem.
I
Yeah.
can see.
Yeah, I do not have it detailed. But I'll get it for you.
Melissa, since our initial hearing on May 6th, have you received any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
We'll open up to any public comment on the FY 26 budget at this time.
Good evening. I'm Pam Hendricks. I live at 1151 Thornwood Drive. And I'm just going, whoo, I thought I had read that the increase in the budget was 9.3%, but I think I just heard it's 12.2%. That's a one-year increase. And, I'm just sort of in awe. The problem with living in what we call a red or conservative county is that everybody says they're Republicans, but I don't see any pushback. I have a real question of how this budget process works. Like, do you give some instruction to our financial people? I mean, do you possibly say, let's try to hold the line? Let's try to, one would be holding it steady, trying not to increase. I'm just telling you, we, the people out there that are paying this, are not getting these kind of increases. I have some rental houses. My tenants are struggling. I have not been able to go up on rent, so I'm making less because my insurance and taxes, of course, are going way up.
So Pam, I'm
Um,
gonna have to stop you right there.
Okay.
I've got your home taxes right here for what you paid Oconee County since 2019 through 2024.
That's amazing. So you've been
you're-
preparing for me to come speak. Is that
I
true,
prepared this
Mr.
back when you were talking
Mc-
against.
That's all right.
Stop while I'm talking. Let me finish.
Well, I would like
I've
to
worked-
fit. This is
No.
my public comment. I
But
think
you're saying something that is not true.
to be
You're saying something that is not true. I looked this up back when you were here
That's
talking
home.
against.
that's my home.
Right. Your home has gone down
Right. Look
$31.
at the rental property.
Your rental, where you operate a business?
No.
Yes, that is your business.
Over on High Shoals Road, John, and it's gone up greatly. And it's done because it's gone up in value, supposedly. My rental property's worth more than my home now, which is kind of crazy. But I can't believe we're discussing my personal taxes.
You just said your taxes are going up at a rate that you can't sustain, and they've gone down $31 since
Well,
2018.
unbelievable. First of all, do I have a timer? Maybe I don't have a timer here, but this is my property. But the whole thing is, what I'm trying to say to you is people are struggling out there and government is just ballooning. I mean, I would really love to see a Department of Government Efficiency at the lower levels here locally and at the state. We're finally getting a little movement at the federal, but not much. I mean, I'm not real excited about what's going up in DC, but here, these continued growths, we're just growing government. And that 12.2% increase in 1 year is huge. And it just seems to me like what I think I heard was we paid off some debt service and it saved us 500,000. So we moved that 500,000 to administration. I mean, why do we need 500,000 more of administration costs? That seems unbelievable to me. I mean, I was just sitting here, I've got lots of notes, but the biggest thing is just that what I don't hear is that there's any movement locally to try to restrain government growth. We're just growing. And at some point it's got to stop, and people are hurting out there. And I just want to plead on you to try to moderate this government. Surely we could get it down to, I thought 9% increase was high, but we're doing 12%, 12.2% increase, the best I can tell. And I just don't understand how we can't work at that. The other thing is, then I heard things like the fees are going up. There's all these hidden taxes. I think I heard that we're going up on the rec fees 10%. Well, that's a tax too. I mean, it's just not called a tax. It's called a fee. And so it's hitting people everywhere. I mean, the taxes we pay are just the beginning of it. And, we're all paying property taxes. Then, we're always saying, oh, vote for those 1% sales tax. By the way, I voted 3 times against the T-Splost. And y'all just kept putting it on the ballot till you got it. And I'm really thinking what we need in the state is we need to have like a quorum for voting. Like we need to have a certain percentage of people vote. I'm very curious how many people are going to vote in this June election that's coming up that people don't even know is coming. And government is out of control. And I would think that you, as supposed Republican conservatives, would be trying to push back on that a little bit. And I don't hear anything. Like, I don't know whether, I was wondering about the budget process. Do you just put it out to the departments, send us your wish list? Or do you give them some guidance of, we need to try to hold the line here? One thing y'all do good is give some explanation. It's better than the school system, and I've often told y'all that. But I still am just in awe of this year-over-year increase. And I think it's time to try to dial it back. And I just ask you as my elected representatives to do that. Thank you.
I'll respond. I'd like to respond to your comment, Ms. Hendricks, about the instructions we give staff as far as budget is concerned. I can't speak for my fellow commissioners, but my instructions is that I do not want to see an increase in our millage rate. In fact, I would prefer that we cut to, so we would not have any millage rate increase. And you didn't mention that. So I don't need any more comments from you. I'm letting you know that what I instruct the staff is hold, if not drop, the millage rate. And I think that's what we've accomplished for a number of years. Mr. Horton's been on here longer than I have. He can tell you, but I know since I've been on here, the thing I hate to have is a public hearing on a property tax increase. And knock on wood, if I can find some real wood around here, we haven't had to do that. And that's my desire this year, is not to have a public hearing so that you can come up here and beat us up for raising your taxes when we haven't. So that's my instruction to the staff. So we'll see. We don't vote on the millage rate until later this year, but my vote is to lower the millage rate so it would not impact homeowners, businesses, rental property owners like yourself, people who pay property taxes. What we do see is growth in our digest that comes from new homes, new businesses, and sales tax. I'm amazed at the sales tax percentage. I think is 36% of total. Property tax is 23% of total. So yeah, you may have voted against T-Splosh. I'm not sure exactly where your street is on this list. I'm going to look for it tonight and see where it's at. And if you don't want your street paved, I'll tell your neighbors that, and we'll move you to the back of the list at the bottom. So that's fine with me. Because the street that I live on has not been resurfaced in over 30 years. So you can complain about the T-Splosh all you want to, but I'm glad that the people who did vote for it was wise enough to do that. So, as I said, my instructions to the staff was I don't want to have any public hearing for any kind of tax increase on the homeowners or the properties owned of this county. That was my only instruction. So we'll see what happens when the total digest gets confirmed, but I suspect that your millage rate on the county portion will go down. Thank you.
I've got one. Ms. Hendricks, have you talked to the sheriff? Budget? Well, if I remember right, you correct me if I'm wrong, but law enforcement takes the lion's share of the tax money that we appropriate. Is that correct? We just entered into an agreement with the school system for, I think, 16 more deputies. and I can't remember how many vehicles, about that many vehicles. Do you look at the cost of those things? I'm just asking, I just a yes or no question. Have you? All right, maybe you should tell the sheriff not to do that? Is that what you're saying? That's where the lion's share of the money is. Now, for one, I want deputies at the school. I want them armed. I want them equipped. I really don't care what you think about that, to be quite honest with you. Because I'm for the safety of the children and the staff, and I'm gonna work with the sheriff to get that done. Now, if you look at some of the numbers, I'm just going back, because there's a lot of information, and Ms. Bracewell works very hard to prepare that. The cost that we have to pay, that's part of the budget. Now, I'm offering you this. I'll meet with you and I'll give you the sheets and you tell me what to cut. You tell me what to cut. Because you know everything. You know everything. You don't do your homework. You just come in here and say we're bloated and we're this or that. You don't bother to go sit with anybody to ask any questions. You want to do it in public and you don't even say anything. You just chirp. That's what you do. So I'll offer you the opportunity. You go over the budget and you say, well, let's cut these deputies. Well, I tell you what, I'm going out of town real short and I'll be back next week. But have you a list of what we can cut, okay? You do that. Well, you do it every time, but you don't have any facts. You just chirp. You chirp. You chirp. Okay. You call me. I'm through.
Melissa, could you come back up and put up our revenue sources? That's a comparison from last year to this year. More particular, the property tax.
Yes. Will you put it up, maybe the first slide? I can forward it, not backwards. Not backwards. You got it. Thank you. Perhaps if I turn it on. The revenue slide.
Okay, my point is, Ms. Hendricks, look at the very top line. The property tax that you're gonna pay is going up about $200,000 or less. I can't done the math, but that's less than 1%. And so your property tax, if you paid that much, would be less than 1%. So your numbers are not correct. No, your first initial question was taxpayers cannot afford to pay for this. So taxpayers, property tax, ad valorem, are not paying for this. These are the numbers to back this up. Sales tax is paid by multiple people from all different counties all over the state of Georgia.
It's really just a mindset of spending less.
I think this county, if you go and do your homework and you look at all the counties in the state, we're probably one of the lowest in terms of taxes of any county in the state. And so do your homework on that and check it out. And the county Board of Commissioners millage rate is far lower than the average. And so I think we're being extremely efficient. with our funds. Look at the numbers. Your property tax is not going up 12%. Melissa's already showed you that. And next week, when you meet with Chuck, you can see where it is. But again, remember that we've got law enforcement increases, 46% of our budget is law and public service, public safety, okay? We've got inmates that are coming in that are actually bringing in revenue, okay? And ma'am, we don't have the authority to push back on the sheriff. The sheriff is his own entity, is elected by the public. And so he is a constitutional officer, just like a lot of these other departments that we have in our building. They're constitutional officers elected by the public. They come up with their own budget. The sheriff comes up with his own budget.
And we work together on it, and it's very efficient. There's a lot of detail that goes into what the sheriff presents to us. And it's measured against standards and stuff, so we're not gonna fix this one for sure. Any other public comment? With that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on the FY '26 budget and move into our regular Board Commissioners meeting. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda submitted.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is statements and remarks from citizens. This is for anything not on the agenda tonight. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Terry Thompson. I live at 1100 Silverleaf Road, and I'm here in Watkinsville, and I'm here to represent a new group called Community Works. Community Works is an organization that we just started forming last month. It's just a group of people that we hope to grow into a large group of diverse people from within the county that want to do volunteer work to help. We're looking for areas in the community that need help and that we would provide volunteer services for. So we have our very first opportunity that came up next week, and that is to get community input for the superintendent search that's going on. And we wanted to invite you all to attend our meeting. It's we're just forming. We're mostly getting word of mouth and on Facebook and Nextdoor. But this meeting is next week on the 28th at Oconee Veterans Park, and we're hoping to get as many people as we can from the community to come in and provide their input to what they would like to see in the next superintendent. And then we'll document that up, unedited, and create a report and present that to the Board of Ed. So we just want to make sure that all the taxpayers in the county have an opportunity to input to the search committee. And so we are also collecting donations for anyone who comes to the meeting, anyone who can bring hand sanitizer, tissues, or paper towels that we can then give to the school when they start the school year out to help in the classrooms. So anyway, I hope you all can come, and anyone who wants to join our Community Works Oconee, we would love to have you participate in this volunteer effort. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. Any statements or remarks from commissioners? You want to remind you that on the end of this week, the detour for Snow's Mill at Lane Creek will commence, I think, on Friday or sometime during the weekend for construction of the roundabout. And that intersection will be closed for up to 50 days. So with that, we'll move into our proclamations. We have two tonight. Our first one is honoring the Older Americans Month, and we're going to ask Commissioner Harden to read that one for us.
Yeah, I guess since I'm the oldest, I get the privilege of doing that. Only about 2 months, Chuck. That's only about 2 months. So anyway, so I guess I am honored to do this tonight. I am honored to do this proclamation for Americans Month. Whereas the nation observes Older Americans Month each May to recognize the vital contributions of older Americans to our society, history, and future. And whereas older Americans have enriched Oconee County with their wisdom, experience, and countless acts of service, dedication, and commitment. And whereas we acknowledge the need to actively prevent and mitigate the impacts of social isolation and loneliness among our older residents. And whereas the Oconee County and its community organizations are committed to promoting well-being, fostering intergenerational connections, and creating a more inclusive and a supportive environment for our older adults. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oconee County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Older Americans Month in Oconee County, and we encourage all residents to celebrate the contributions and resilience of older Americans and to work toward creating a supportive and inclusive community for all ages. It's signed by our Chairman, John Daniel, and attested by our County Clerk, Hardy Stevenson.
We have some staff from our senior center. If y'all want to come up and accept the proclamation, we'll. Our next proclamation is for Public Works Week. We're going to ask Mark Saxon to read that
Mine's a lot longer, so I guess it's because I'm younger.
one.
This is a proclamation to celebrate National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, quality of life, and the well-being of people in Oconee County. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services cannot be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees of all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Oconee County to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oconee Board of Commissioners does hereby designate the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week and recognizes the substantial contributions professionals in public works make to protecting our health, safety, and quality of life. Signed, John Daniel, Chairman.
Jody, Jeff, are you here to help accept that?
We have a couple of our staff members.
Next item is discuss RFP 2503015. It's roadside mowing annual contract bid award. Jody?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This item of business is the bid award for the annual contract for roadside mowing. We had 3 vendors submit proposals on this RFP, and after evaluation, the recommended vendor is Loving Contracting Company Incorporated. The bid amount that they proposed for FY '26 is $390,000. This would be included in the proposed FY '26 T-Splost budget. Public Works recommends awarding the roadside mowing annual contract to Loving Contracting Company Incorporated, authorizing the chairman to execute documents and approving any budget amendments for the life of the project up to the contract amount.
Have any questions on this?
I'm curious, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask you a couple of questions. How does this 390,000 compare to previous year?
It's very, very close. I don't have the numbers for last year. Melissa may. It's very close to.
Okay. And secondly, we do this, I assume since it's an annual contract, we put this out to bid every year?
No, sir. This one is an annual contract, so it would be a one-year term with up to 4 additional renewals. And we would bid it out every 5 years. If the contractor's satisfied with working for us and we're satisfied with their work.
So does that include a kind of a inflation factor in the 390 for subsequent years, or is it going to stay at 390 for the next 5 years?
Yeah, there's an allowable percentage increase in the contract documents.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions on? You all right for consent agenda? Do we have any public comment? With that, we'll move to the ground maintenance contract RFP update.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner. Similar to the roadside mowing, this is for basically everything else, including parks. We're looking to do an RFP to have one provider for all our other grounds maintenance. This is a more complicated as far as scope contract. The review committee is still reviewing the proposals. We received 9, I believe. They're currently going through the cost and the final scoring. We'll be coming back to you with a final recommended firm for the one contract. Similar to the roadside mowing, this would be a 1 year with 4 annual renewals going forward.
Thank you. Any questions on that process? Next item is discuss the Epps Ridge Parkway Sewer Collector Upgrade Engineering. Adam?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a proposal that PPI has provided us, and it is to essentially upgrade the existing line that exists between Oconee Connector and Parkway Boulevard from an 8-inch to a 12-inch. This would provide some much needed capacity for a major development corridor. And the price for the proposal is going to be $105,300. And my recommendation is to approve that amount and a budget amendment for the life of the project not to exceed the proposed amount.
Any questions on this item?
What is this tying into outfall wise?
It's going to tie into the 18-inch along with Nut Creek, which will go to Epps Bridge Lift Station.
So, since there is a 18, do we need to look at increasing the size of the 12? Or you think that's going to provide multiple years of capacity?
Just from what we've seen and from what we've, I guess from the development plans that have been submitted and for the land use map, we do think that'll last to the end, hopefully to the end of my career.
Oh, for how long?
You about got me last time.
The modeling provided by the engineering service indicates this is the appropriate line based on the growth pattern in the area.
That's correct.
Over there behind that area where Costco is. Now, you remember that?
No, this is over near front of Home Depot and Kroger, catching that and running across, right?
Yeah, it goes from, it will be on the not necessarily, not behind Costco, but on the other side of Parkway Boulevard. If that makes sense. It goes from Epps Bridge all the way to, and it crosses at the culvert at Parkway Boulevard.
Yeah, because I remember there was basically done it, what was being proposed was a small pipe. What they said back then was, we did it, kind of held off for a while, but maybe it's like I said, they'll have to come back in here for parallel. So,
Yeah. This is not that same line.
okay, I just curious.
I just don't want us to get in a trap that, you know,
All right.
15, 20 years from now, we're going back trying to redo it.
Yeah. I agree.
Any other questions on this one? Be all right for consent agenda? Yes. Any public comment? Then we'll move on to the US 441 sanitary sewer diversion engineering. Adam?
Yeah, so PPI has provided another proposal for us for design services. And this is to divert flow, from the existing 8-inch line along the 441 corridor, to essentially, free it up, for, essentially just to free it up so we can, have more connections to it. The line we're trying to divert is, if you can kind of picture it, it's going to be the line that I guess carries flow from Athens Academy, Athens Ridge, the Falls, Presbyterian Homes, and all that. And that's just an 8-inch line. So we'd like to essentially divert it to it around that corridor and make it a 12-inch line to take essentially all that flow from that 441 lift station. The amount for the design services is a not to exceed amount of $189,135. I recommend approval of that proposal, and the budget amendment for the life of the project not to exceed the approved amount.
Any questions on this one?
I gotta ask the obvious questions that you're diverting. So what's gonna happen to the 8-inch pipe that it's currently in now, and you're gonna divert it to this new pipe? What's gonna happen to the old?
We're going to keep it in service to,
It'll be freed up with what's going on at Oconee Mercantile. That seems to be heating up. We just did the rezone across the street there with, next to QT. I think that's 126,000 square feet. And then there's activity, as you know, on the old Ivy property. You already got the Quick Lube going in and some other chatter on that location. So with all that hitting, we'll have capacity in the plant. It's gonna be, won't have a way to get it there unless we make some adjustments.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, because that's really a better explanation of the reason for doing that, because of all the development that corridor. As this happens, I mean, we definitely need the increased capacity. So how long will it take them to do their design? And I mean, when will you be back asking for a 12-inch pipe?
I have to get the schedule, which it'll be updated tomorrow, I believe. But I'm thinking we could probably have the design, was it 3-4 months?
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's turning out it's probably gonna happen in phases. So we're gonna start at the big connector on Calls Creek. What's the giant?
Oh, you're talking about Lampkin Branch?
Lampkin Branch.
Yeah.
Upgrade that 12 inches up to the property line. The latest rezone we did over there, they're still trying to figure out where everything's going. And then their plan was to put in a 8-inch pipe. We're gonna pay the difference between the 8 and the 12 to get that through. So the developer will pay that portion of it. And then once we have that figured out, we'll do the diversion of the pump station.
Okay.
So it's kind of in phases.
Commissioner Harden, this is the sewer infrastructure companion piece to the roundabout planning that we approved in the previous meeting. This is the in-ground stuff to be able to handle the anticipated growth corridor. And then we have some development permits that are kind of under review. This will allow some developer participation in the infrastructure costs and the siting and locations of the easements.
Okay, thank you.
I'll explain it better next time.
Any other questions for Adam? Or he sits there.
Good.
We all right for consent agenda? Yes. Any public comment? Very good. Next item is discuss and consider the estimated millage rate. So as you know, House Bill 581 was passed and signed. One of the requirements of House Bill 581 was to allow the local governments to do an estimated millage rate. And that will allow the estimated taxes to come off the property tax assessment. So when you select that number, however, if you actually, at the end of the day, your millage rate is higher than that, then they're going to put a warning to all the taxpayers that you did not meet that. So you can still be meeting your rollback if you miss your estimated tax and still have to put that on there. So we've gotten 2 sets of digest numbers from the tax commissioner so far to give us what the estimated rollback rate is. Under both of those, your current budget allows a full rollback for 2025. Originally came here going to recommend that we estimate the millage rate a little bit higher than what that rollback was because we still have appeals and that type of thing, and we're actually still finding some issues here and there. So far, it's not been significant money-wise, but there could be that one. Justin and I met with the tax commissioner this afternoon, and there's some confusion about whether you put the net millage rate in or the gross millage rate in on the tax assessment, which if we use the gross, it'll be 8.83 mils something, which is going to create a lot of problems for us. Our other option is just to do nothing, and then they'll just put the estimated taxes on just like it's happened in the past. And so my recommendation now is that we do not set an estimated millage rate, let it go out with last year's. I still think most people will see a reduction just because of the new homestead exemption, 3,000 that was added in. And anybody who picked up the other exemptions will be in good shape. So we don't have to do anything unless y'all want to go with that. The plan right now is we will not have a hearing on a tax increase for the budget for FY '26. So we're beating that goal.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. The tax digest makes a big change or something pops, we'll have that discussion at that time to kind of do it.
That will be at our July meeting or August meeting?
We'll probably be in August when that happens. Any questions? Our next time is quarterly acceptance of deeds and easements. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is just our normal acceptance of any deeds that have been assigned to the county over the last few months. We had a quitclaim deed and a right-of-way deed as detailed in your packet.
Any questions on those? You all right for consent? Yes, sir. Any public comment? All right, we do have need of executive session to discuss personnel.
Make a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion carries.
back into regular session.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Saxon,
Motion adjourned.
Second.
we're adjourned.
I'll have a happy moment.